Let's go back to the homelessness period. The time that the police officer snuck up on you and took you to the hospital, was that your first encounter with law enforcement?
No, that wasn't my first encounter with law enforcement. So for 3 years, I hid all the time in USC libraries and lounges. I had an ID. I remember my first night sleeping at USC in the library after I became homeless. University police who checked the library at night saw that I was disheveled and out of touch and said, "Why are you here? You know, we need to see your ID. This library is for students." So I showed them my old university ID that I was so proud of. They didn't check it. They left me alone. And I started sleeping in that library night after night after night. The security would smile at me. They never questioned it. Nobody researched me and said, "This girl failed her classes and she's not in class anymore. She shouldn't be here." So I was in the library almost every night. And then the summer came, and I knew that there was a dormitory that was empty in summer, and I would sneak up there every night and sleep there. So I was really, really abusing, my privileges at the university. I shouldn't have been doing that anymore. And it went on for 3 years. And then I started sleeping outside. And in October of 2006, 3.5 years into my homelessness, the voices kept telling me again and again to go up to this lounge. I knew that it was a nice lounge where people went out to pick up their diplomas, people were dressed nice. I absolutely knew I didn't belong, but the voices kept telling me how I was this prophet to be, and of course I'm welcome there, and of course just go there. And at that day, when the university saw me in that lounge, dirty, out of touch, they called the LAPD. And I remember seeing an LAPD car come. I'd never seen one on campus before my whole time at the university. And they were there to pick up me. It was my first incarceration. I was so confused. I really believed that I was unconditionally welcome at USC. I mean, I'm winning a Nobel Peace Prize, right? So of course I'm welcome there. So I'm in the jail, and the jail was very dark. It was very crowded. It was tremendously scary. I wasn't hearing much voices. It was like the voices went away because I was so afraid. I was in jail for 2 or 3 days. It was very fast, but it was very, very scary. They let me out. And you would think that I would go back to my parents at that point and say, "I need help," or friends, or anyone, or rebuild my life. When I got out of jail, I walked from downtown Los Angeles to the churchyard where I was sleeping every night, pulled my sleeping bag out from behind the bushes, and just continued living outside. Nothing changed. So that happened, and then the next month, November, I thought it was a week before Thanksgiving. Again, couldn't check the date on a newspaper without hallucinating. It was actually the day before Thanksgiving. I was having really terrible tactile hallucinations. Went to the churchyard in the middle of the day to lie down. And the police came and said, "Where do you live?" And I told them the standard lie that I told everybody. I live over there in that housing complex. But they asked me more questions this time, and I had no idea how to answer them. So they briefly picked me up and took me to jail again. I'm like singing to myself in jail, hymns, believing that I'm a Christian prophet being abused by the world, totally clueless, totally confused. My second stay in jail was easier. There was more natural light. I had a clean uniform. There was good food. I didn't have to look in the garbage for food. There were actually some benefits to being in jail. But yes, when it comes to schizophrenia, about half of people with schizophrenia will end up in jail or prison at some point.
You were then given a psychiatric evaluation in jail because it was alerted that you might have a mental illness?
No, I was never given a psych evaluation. If a doctor had seen me for 2 minutes, he or she would have known right away that I was hearing voices 24/7. But, first of all, they didn't look closely at me. They didn't even make a rough evaluation. But secondly, when I was under the stress of being in jail and was very, very afraid, the voices did get a lot quieter. Now, if I had been in jail for weeks or months, I'm sure the voices would have come back, but both stays were very short.
Did you notice in either of your times in jails that there were other people that appeared to have hallucinations or mental illness?
I didn't, but I remember when I got to the jail for the first time, they said, you need to go to the medical clinic. And I thought, no, of course not. And I looked out to where the medical clinic was, and it was full of people. And I thought, why are so many of these people getting medical help? What's wrong? And to this day, I wonder just how many of them were getting an injection with a psych med. But no, I mean, you see people that are disheveled. You see people that are out of touch, and you wonder what brought them to jail and what their situation was.